Hey everybody! So I've been trying to spend as much time as I can at the library, um, and I wanted to share with you something that I've read recently. This is Becoming Charlemagne by Jeff Sypeck. Sypeck? Sypeck, one of those. Um, it's a good bit of early medieval history. It does have a lot of the history is not but the biographies of great men about it, being, about Charlemagne specifically. Um, but we spend a surprisingly little amount with Charlemagne himself in here. I've got quite a few chapters devoted to basically trying to provide context around why he was crowned the new Roman emperor, even though there was still a Roman Empire in the east, and his territory was mostly in what would become France and Germany. So Sypeck starts with the usurpation of the throne of the Eastern Roman Empire, known to us as the Byzantines, uh, by Irene from her son Constantine IV. She holds a coup, he gets blinded. I actually do want to read you that little bit because it's a lot of fun. So this is the first paragraph in the second chapter of this. There would have been a lot of blood. On a Saturday morning in August, in the greatest city in the world, the Emperor of the Romans, Constantine IV, was brought by boat across the Bosporus to the great palace of Constantinople. Despite his desperate pleas, he was locked in the Porphyria, the sumptuous purple room where his mother had given birth to him 26 years earlier. Later in the day, his mother's soldiers gouged out his eyes. So, medieval history, very fun, and that prose is a pretty good example of the kind of narrative building from historical events and historical documents that you see here. In addition to having a woman as the Basilissa, the emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire, for a lot of people, especially in the West, that was illegitimate. It was considered like, oh no, we don't have a Roman emperor right now. Who is going to defend Christendom from the burgeoning Abbasid Empire? The Abbasids were the successors to the Umayyads in the Middle East and North Africa, doing the conquista that would eventually be reconquisted. Controlled quite a bit of territory between the Middle East and into Spain. So there's that. You've got the illegitimate Empress of the Romans, as she is seen by many, and then the new Pope, Pope Leo the Third. I got it right. Okay, and then the Pope, Pope Leo the Third, was not super popular. Unlike previous popes, he didn't have any strong connections to the noble families of Rome, and they didn't like him. And there was an assassination attempt that involved another attempted blinding this time. Lots of blindings. Very, very 9th century. So you've got the illegitimate empress and the pope in peril, and now this Frankish King Karl is doing very well for himself, conquering a whole bunch of land from pagans in Germania, and had done the previous pope a big favor by conquering the Lombards in northern Italy, and so had strong ties to the papacy. He was considered the defender of the pope from various folks. So the new pope, Leo III, was like, hey, you should be my defender too. That would be really nice. Some folks tried to kill me, so he invited Karl down to Rome. Karl presided over the trial of... Okay, I need to backtrack. So Pope Leo III was accused of usury and adultery, and that was sort of the justification for the attack. His attackers are like, no, we're not criminals who hate popes. It's just this particular pope is bad. And so Pope Leo III calls Karl down to preside over the trial, first of the pope for these accusations, and then of the folks who attacked the pope, when the pope is, of course, found innocent, because even though Karl was presiding over the trial, in situations where the pope is accused of crimes, especially at the time, the general consensus was, well, only God can judge the pope. And being the voice of God on earth, sort of, the pope was allowed to basically be his own judge, so of course he found himself innocent. But Karl was there to sort of preside over the thing, kind of the role that previous Roman emperors had in religious synods. For example, the famous Council of Nicaea was presided over by a Roman emperor who was just kind of in attendance to be like, hey, this is very official, the emperor is here. And that was sort of Karl's role, even though he was just the king of the Franks and owned a lot of land. And this was sort of preamble to what happened next when, on Christmas of that year, Karl became Emperor of the Romans, to the immense surprise of Irene and the folks of the Eastern Roman Empire. And that imperial title would bounce around Europe for a little while and eventually become the hot mess that was the Holy Roman Empire, Habsburgs, etc. So this book kind of attempts to give context, not necessarily to who Charlemagne was, but more like what was the political situation around why this guy got to be Emperor of the Roman Empire. And we spend time both in the Eastern Roman Empire with Irene and with the Pope, and also with various of Charlemagne's advisors and diplomats, which have interesting stories of their own. I encourage you to check it out or find a related book. Just go to the library. They'll have computers. Go to the catalog, type in Charlemagne. You'll get a whole bunch of stuff. There's a lot out there. Maybe you'll get this one. Maybe you'll get something else with different information. That would be cool too. We spend some time in Baghdad, the briefly capital of the Abbasids. And some of the political situation there. and just it's very interesting. History is very interesting. So I wanted to share. So I hope you all are having a beautiful day. Go to the library.